All right. Hey, just a point. Nobody ever said anything about whether they like the weight with the little inset or, you know, go back to the way I did it with lights out, just reading it from the text. And no, I read it from the book there, which I can't do here, but this hasn't been terribly distracting to me. But, anybody has any comments, like it's a little late, but, that's why I'm doing it, so, oh well. Anyway, all right, realization part 4. For a second he felt nothing, then realized how badly his knee hurt. Then he realized how badly the rest of him hurt, but not the way he thought being shot by a rifle would hurt. He rolled over again and saw a BDU-clad body lying on the ground. Stepping out of the brush from 10 yards away was Miguel with an auto shotgun in his hand, looking directly at the body on the ground. John laid his head down on the ground and let out a long sigh. Miguel carefully crept up to him and said, "John, can you hear me?" The man opened his eyes and spoke. "I'm here, Miguel, for the moment at least. My left side hurts like hell." No shots could be heard, and they could hear the sounds of running feet crashing through the brush. In the near distance, they could hear a man whimpering in pain. Miguel put out his hand and helped John up. They walked towards the sound of the men, and Melinda ran up to them. "Daddy, Daddy." She wrapped her arms around his waist so tightly he could not get her loose. Finally, he pulled her arms free and picked her up. "I'm all right, honey. Are you hurt? Did they hurt you?" The girl stopped sobbing long enough to say, "I'm okay, Daddy. They didn't hurt me. I was just scared to death. They were going to kill you." "Well, they didn't kill me, honey. I'm still here. Let it out until you can pull yourself together. Miguel and I have to look around a bit. How many men were there?" "4, Daddy. There were only 4. There's another man they were going back to meet, an archer, I think." "That's very good, Mel. Very good. You just keep holding my hand and you'll be all right. Let's go look around." The men and the girl began to walk towards the sound of the whimpering. Melinda's tears continued to roll down her face, to be lost in the freezing rain interspersed with the occasional sob. They found the man who had been holding a knife on Melinda lying on the ground, clutching his bloody left arm between his legs, his left ear torn and bleeding profusely, with Jake standing over him, blood on his muzzle and face. Looking around, they found the rest. The older man laying where John had shot him. Just in front of him, Rick lay on the ground, dead. The second man was at a distance from where he'd been when John had rapid-fired at him, lying face down. This only left the 5th man still unaccounted for, the one who was still back at wherever they'd come from. Posse members were arriving. Jimmy, Mike, others. John ignored them when he walked up to the surviving kidnapper. He squatted down and took a pistol out of the man's holster and handed it to Miguel. Then he took the fellow by the chin and raised his face so they could look at each other. "Where's the 5th man?" he asked. The man let out a whimper of pain and then said, "There ain't no 5th man. It was just us 4. You done killed us all." "There's another man back from wherever it was you came from," John persisted. "Where is he?" The man began to marshal himself better and repeated, "I told you there ain't no 5th man." John said nothing but stood, then stomped his booted foot down onto the man's mangled hand and ground it into the dirt under his heel. The man let out a gassy scream and John shouted over it, "I asked you where he was, you son of a bitch." The man lay panting, trying to form words. Please, mister, don't do that again. There ain't no 5th man, I swear to you." The folding knife went snick as it left John's pockets, and before anyone realized what he was doing, he reached down and sliced a strip off of the man's mangled left ear. The man screamed again, and the rage-filled father repeated, "Where is he?" "Oh, God, please, please. Oh, you got to understand. You don't know what they'll do to me if I tell you. Oh, God, please, don't hurt me no more, please." John quickly sliced off another piece of the man's ear, invoking another scream. "I don't care what they'll do to you. You better worry about what I'm going to do to you. You damn piece of filth. I'll whittle pieces off of you all night if I have to. Where is he?" The wounded man looked up at the men encircling him, staring at him with eyes of cold stone, none of whom spoke a word. The man in the deputy's uniform equally silent. John bent over with the knife again. No, please. Oh, God, I'll tell you. His name is Lucius. I don't know his last name. He lives down on the county line road. A white trailer with brown trim. Please, don't cut me no more." The man began to sob. Mike began to question him more closely about the precise location of the trailer the man named Lucius lived in. When he finished, he spoke into his radio, relaying the information to the sheriff out on 27, who said he'd have a couple of cruisers go there immediately. Their immediate questions answered, the men wrapped cloth around the dog-chewed arm and hand of the man and then cuffed him. After conferring with Jimmy, they decided they were closer to the federal highway and would go out that way. Men began to cut poles and rig litters to transport the dead. John helped lift the leader of the kidnappers onto a litter and winced. Miguel looked at him and asked, "Didn't you say you were hit? I don't see any blood on you, but you seem to be hurt. Turn around." John did as he'd been told, and Miguel whistled, "Madre Dios, there's a hole in and out of your jacket. Here, John. Take it off." He unbuttoned his jacket, wincing as he pulled it off of his shoulders, afraid to see what lay underneath. Miguel scrutinized him closely and frowned. "What is it?" John asked, afraid that he was going to tell him. "John, there is no hole in your shirt, but there's 2 holes in your jacket. No sign of blood either. I don't understand this. Let me see your jacket." As tension bled off, John began to shiver in the rain and wind, but he handed his jacket over to the other man. Miguel stuck his finger in one hole and poked it out the other and said, "Ah." Reaching into the inside pocket, he took out a stainless steel flask, turning it over in his hands while he examined it, then handed it to John with a statement. "Here is the secret of our Iron Man." John took the flask and turned it over, finding a long, deep groove streaked with copper across its middle. "Son of a bitch," he said with a sigh of relief. "Must have hit at a fairly shallow angle to have only ricocheted across the outside like that instead of penetrating. I'd have been in a bad way if it hadn't hit this flask. Glad it didn't hole it. It was a birthday gift from my dad last year. Still not sure it didn't crack a rib, though. That was quite a wallop." He unscrewed the cap and took a deep swallow, then passed it to the other man, who grinned at him. Took a deep swallow himself, then said, "The Lord looks after drunks and fools, it is said. Today, my friend, you should be glad." He laughed as John winced himself back into his jacket. John didn't try to load any more bodies onto litters, but as they lifted one man onto a litter, he stared at him, then asked the men moving him to roll him over. He poked around the dead man's jacket, then said, "I thought I heard a small caliber in there. That's what killed this fellow. 3 shots from behind." He looked around, then spotted the pistol in Melinda's holster. "I thought Brittany told me they took your little pistol when they grabbed you." Melinda looked at him wide-eyed, her chin quivering. "They did, Daddy. It was in that man's belt," she pointed at their prisoner. "It fell out when Jake attacked him. I picked it up while he was fighting with Jake, and I shot that man." "I did right, didn't I, Daddy? He was about to shoot you." All right, that's going to be enough for tonight. Good night. And just quick on bullet deflection. My son was practicing dry firing his FNFAL one morning. I was sitting at the computer at a right angle to him. He was laying prone on the concrete floor of the kitchen, and in front of him was a 5-gallon pail of milk replacer for calves. It was about empty. As my youngest son, sat on the couch watching him, he took a loaded magazine and put it in and racked the chamber and dry fired. Except it wasn't a dry fire. As they say in Braveheart, "That'll wake a man up in the morning, boy." Yeah, it got my attention. The kicker is that it hit at the angle off center. If it had hit straight, it would have done more damage, but it hit off center. The 5-gallon plastic pail began deflecting the bullet. It continued to deflect it as it hit the far side of the pail. It went into the door of the refrigerator exactly perpendicular. You could draw a perfect outline of a 150 grain flat nose, they basically ball military ammo. And it went at that point, it hit the foam bottom of the door, the foam filled bottom of one of the outer door containers for mayonnaise and stuff. Went through entirely through the bottom of it, came out and went through 2 or 3 jars, mayonnaise. There was a glass jar, quart jar of mayonnaise, and we figured that's probably where the bullet ended up, but we never did find it. But it stopped inside the refrigerator. It did not go through. Didn't go through and hit my other son, who was in the bedroom, directly on the other side of the bullet, and it was right at about bed level. So kind of a miraculous stoppage. But bullets can be deflected by empty 2 layers of plastic, deflected, completely deflected. Those 2 layers of plastic made the bullet go in instead of going in nose in. It went in exactly perfectly sideways like that. Like that was the bullet right there. And from then on, it was just happenstance, ha ha ha. You know, gee, what an amazing coincidence, you know, of going through the bottom of the foam-filled part of the door compartment. And so my wife got home, and Ian had cleaned the refrigerator for good. She goes, "Oh, somebody cleaned the refrigerator, thank you." So we didn't tell her for quite a few weeks, and then one day Ian said, "You know, I don't really care if you tell her." So we told her. She didn't care either. So nobody got killed. It was a good day. Nobody got killed. So one of them deals. So don't practice dry firing inside. Don't practice dry firing with loaded magazines laying around. You know, just a lot of safety things that people break these rules all the time. Never pull the trigger on something unless you are planning on killing it. You know, shooting and killing. So anyway, a lot of multitude of dumb mistakes there. But like I said, nobody got killed, so hallelujah. All right. I did right, didn't I, Daddy? He was about to shoot you. Yeah, you done right, kid. All right, good night. See ya. Love y'all. Bye-bye.